I got a chair. Check it out. Goes back and forth, spins. You know why I got a chair? Because today we're taking on the one heat challenge while sitting in a chair. Bang, 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 choo, choo. No, I'm totally kidding. But that would be pretty fun. Today, we're looking at a saddle system for the power hammer dies. Here we go. Okay, disclaimer, didn't design it, totally not bright enough to think of this stuff. I saw this first at Jeffrey Funk's shop, super smart guy. That's where the idea comes from, so just so that's clear. This saddle system, I don't even know if it's called that, I just call it that. Basically what it does is it allows you to make tooling up different types of die configurations, but it's really inexpensive and really quick to change. So the way it used to work is when you wanted different shapes in your dies, other than like a flat shape, you have to machine like this huge chunk of steel that's got a dovetail on it with a wedge, and then you would replace that. So that's like really expensive at best. Typically, you're only changing dies in smaller power hammers, and the bigger ones you just always run flat. So in the industrial and the bigger hammers, they would never change them. They would just be flat dies, and you would put top and bottom tooling in, have a second person by the power hammer, one to run it, or three sometimes, one to run it, one to move the material, one to hold tooling, etc. But the problem is, I work by myself, you just don't have the other person. So this is sort of a hybrid of all of that put into a system that works pretty good. It's got some pros and cons, we'll go over that, but that's kind of the idea behind this system. So this is how it works. It's really simple. You just have to do one thing that can be a little bit life-changing. You have to drill a hole right through the middle of your power hammer dies. Depending on how you feel about that, it can be an interesting experience. Once you've got the hole through your die though, you're golden. So what you do is you get the hole in your die, and then you have this piece of material like a saddle, it just slips over. And this is where the brilliant part of it is you put two wedges on that saddle, that piece of material, like this, and then they line up to the hole going through, and then you have two more corresponding wedges that are the opposite way, but they're on the bolts. And so when you stick it all in and you tighten it up, the wedges drive the saddle system down so it stays tight. And that's how this system works so good, because it's so quick. One bolt, impact, and you've got it. You're ready to go. So you do that top and bottom, and then once you've got that saddle system developed, you just put on whatever dies you want on the top. So I use it, I've got a whole bunch of like standard dies that I use all the time, but then also for like the one-off crazy projects, I just make a saddle up and just weld something on it or something like that. So it's pretty inexpensive once you get the system developed on how to make the saddles. I can whiz them off pretty quick. And then for the wedges, you have like two options, at least two options that I know about. Number one is you just cut square bar on an angle, you just make the wedge, drill a hole through it. Or you can actually buy these wedges. They're for I-beam or wide flange or something like that. And because wide flange, it's angled, the flange is angled, and so when they put holes through it, they put these wedges on it so the bolt goes through and it sits square. So you just take those wedges, you can buy them, they're relatively inexpensive, and then you don't even have to cut them. They come in different sizes, so you just pick what you want, and then you're good to go. So that's a great option if you want. I have found that they're cast iron. I have found that they wear a lot quicker than just like mild steel, but again, depending on how much you use it, is really not a big deal. All right. Oh, my chair's falling apart. I just bought this chair for $15 at the local thrift store. Got it here, put it down, started to give it a little bit of a spin. The leg was broken. Not even kidding. I had to break out the old welder, fix it up. Brand new. You know what they say, you pay what you get for. Now it's starting to fall apart too. Man, stink. So the pro of this thing is that it's really quick. For custom tooling, like one-off jobs, it's really great because you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars and tons of time making up this one solid die for like a one-off job, right? The really big drawback to this system is that you lose a ton of your stroke on your power hammer. Usually, if you're doing the dies, you've got your maximum distance that the power hammer can go down. And then when you change the dies, it stays at that. But this is essentially putting tooling on top. So with my hammer, when I put my drawing dies in, I can lose up to 4 inches of stroke. Now that's not a super big problem for me because typically I'm not running the hammer flat out, so it's okay, it's fine. But if you need the power, that really sets you back. So that's something to keep in mind. Is if you're doing a process that requires a lot of different tooling changeouts in it, this isn't great. Like even though it's really fast, it's still not super fast. So for example, drawing pickets all day long, like texturing 3/4 inch pickets or something, I can do that all day and that is a perfect setup for that. But something like the one heat challenge, for example, or making axes, where you've got a lot of different top tooling, bottom tooling, a lot of different processes, I don't find this super helpful because you gotta one heat and then you gotta stop and unbolt and rebolt. And so I've actually just in the last maybe year and a half or two, I've really started to drift back towards the way of just working with flat dies and then bringing in swages and things like that and top tooling. And that's a different way of working. And so it depends on how you work and what project you're doing, dictates how you kind of approach it. I still think this is something I'm always gonna have and always be using, but I rely on it differently now that I'm starting to change a little bit of how I approach my work. And I think that's great, and that'll be different for you. You have a different size power hammer than I do, and you do different type of work. So this could work really great, or this might be just use a little bit of it or not. But I mean, honestly, it doesn't slow you down once you've got it because it's just the hole in the die, and then you can decide to use it or not. So there you go. This chair is super comfy. Stink, man. I love this thing. This is just need a cup of coffee right now. That would be ideal. Man. Well, I guess that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future uploads. And apparently, if you hit the button beside the subscribe button, the bell notification, you get notified when I upload a video, and that helps you and that helps me. So something to think about for sure. And we will see you next week when hopefully, I hope we're actually forging something. I love these videos and I love talking, but I'm ready to get back to the forge. We will see you next time.